Your village is under attack from werewolves, witches, vampires, and even demons. How are you going to defend and protect the villagers in your city? That is what we're going to talk about today as I review Vampire Village. Now, Vampire Village is from Studio H and Hachette Games. Thank you to Hachette Games for providing this copy for a review so that we could do coverage for this game during our spooky season coverage. Each game of Vampire Village will start with each player receiving a starter village tile. This village tile will have some defensive numbers. You'll see them on the west, the east, and the north side of your starting tile. These numbers are going to show you how much defense you have against witches from the west, the werewolves from the north, and the vampires from the east. Going from this starting tile, players are going to fill out their village and add new tiles as the game progresses. Vampire Village does a really good job of breaking things down into two distinct phases over the course of 2 rounds. And altogether, the game plays in about 25 to 30 minutes, which is really nice for this style of game. In Phase 1, in each of the 2 rounds, players are going to receive a hand of village tiles. You're going to take one of those village tiles, and then you're going to pass the rest to the player to your left in round 1 and right in round 2. Now, as you build out your individual villages as players, you have some constraints, mainly that you can't go more than 4 village tiles high or 4 village tiles wide. So as you keep inside those constraints, players are going to be playing new village tiles and earning new villagers when it meets the criteria. So you want to receive as many villagers as possible because at the end of the game, these villagers are actually victory points as long as they stay alive. And just a little note, there's not going to be a lot of them alive at the end. Players can also draft heroes, which will allow them to move their villagers around their village to a more safe spot than they may have already been populated. These heroes also guard and can kill some of the high-level creatures that are going to come knocking on your door in Phase 2 of Vampire Village. So now let's talk about Phase 2 of each of the 2 rounds. In Phase 2, players are given 3 cards that represent big baddies that are coming to pillage your village. Now, you want to take into account what the player to the right and to the left of you have built in their village and maybe look at what their defenses look like, because you're going to hand one of these big bad cards to the player to your right and to the player to your left and take one of them for yourself. Each time this second phase triggers, you're going to do this twice. So you're going to feed 2 cards to your right, 2 cards to your left, and take on 2 creatures yourself in your own village. This is the part of Vampire Village that is so mean and so diabolical, because you're going to play into the weaknesses of the players to your right and to your left. You want their villages to be attacked, and you want their villagers to be killed as quickly as possible, limiting the amount of points that they're going to earn at the end of the game. So if you see that the person to your left has very little defense with witches, I'm absolutely going to hand over some witch cards to that player. Now that everybody has 6 creatures knocking on their village gates, we're going to have to resolve how these creatures attack the village based on what was set up at the beginning of the game. Demons will always go first, and then after that, it's going to be randomly dealt out whether witches or vampires or werewolves go second, third, and fourth, eventually resolving all of the attacks on our villages. The creature's attack strength is going to go against your village's defense strength of that color type. And as you resolve these, the creatures are going to destroy buildings in your village and any of the villagers that are on those specific tiles. That is why recruiting heroes and moving your villagers to the innermost areas of your village is probably the smartest idea. Any creatures that have been warded off will actually stay on the outside of your village and wait for the second round of the game, because they're coming back to attack again with even more powerful cards than in the first round. We're going to play through a second round of this in the same way, and then at the end of the game, whatever villagers are left in your village and whatever enemies are standing at the gate that you've warded off is going to be your victory points. I really, really dig Vampire Village. In essence, it is a tower defense game. I used to love playing tower defense games on the computer when I was a kid, setting up towers and knowing that these enemies were coming to me and trying to be ready to defend my plot of land. Vampire Village plays out in that way, and it makes the people to your right and to your left choose what is the most diabolical way to destroy your village and save your own. Vampire Village is not for the faint of heart. This is a game that can easily get super mean, and people might get a little offended because everybody starts tossing werewolves their way, hoping to just bombard their village and just plow through every villager that they have. It is a very mean game, but I think that's what works for Vampire Village. Vampire Village is strategic. Vampire Village is mean. It's a game that I really enjoy playing with the right players who are ready to settle in and dish out big hits at the table. There are a lot of games that have limited to no player interaction at all. Vampire Village actually does, because in the form of dealing out enemies to your right and to your left, you are drastically affecting how their village falls apart, because it will fall apart. Don't get me wrong, you can have the most beautiful plan and the people next to you could be plotting your demise the entire time. By handing you just the right cards, they can destroy your village and decimate it down to nothing. I've been in games where somebody was sitting there and they thought they had just an immaculate village. They had prepped it. They were ready for the attack. Phase 2 came and everybody handed them the worst cards that they could have, just bombarding them from every side, and all of their villagers that were not in the center of their village ended up dying. The score was like 3 or 4 points. It was terrible, but they immediately wanted to play the game again. That's how much fun we have with Vampire Village. If you're okay with a drafting game that is mean, that is all about planning and then seeing those plans fall apart right before your eyes, I would say Vampire Village is a big hit. What I like about it is that in under 30 minutes, you're going to have this experience where you're talking crap to your friends at the table or family members and saying, why would you send a vampire my way? Why would you send that witch my way? Come on, you knew I was defenseless. And it's all in good fun, because honestly, with a playtime of under 30 minutes, we can jump right back in and you can dish out those same big hits to the person who threw monsters your way in the first game. I really like Vampire Village. It is a staple of our Halloween spooky gaming collection, and one that we're going to be playing a lot this Halloween season. If this sounds of any interest to you, I would just encourage you to check out Vampire Village from Hachette Games and Studio H. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel, because we really appreciate those subscriptions. Share this video with somebody who likes spooky games, and hopefully you get some spooky games to the table this season. Until next time, we'll see you at the table.